Hey,
I
Cone,
like
how
those
you going, man?
posters.
Hey, the
I like those
posters.
posters.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks,
yeah,
man.
cool.
They're two of the best movies I've ever seen. So, how are you,
Thanks.
man?
I'm all right. How are you? I'm good.
Um,
Yeah, just hanging out at home in Toronto. We're gonna fly out in a couple days.
yeah, I was gonna say because you guys only just finished up Europe, like your final Europe tour about a week ago, didn't you?
Yeah, I got home on Sunday. We played Paris on Saturday, flew home Sunday, and now we're flying back out. That's kind of how the year's been going. It's been a pretty packed year. We started in February. I think the first show was in South Korea in February, and we just kind of been going every
Man,
country
yeah,
since. Yeah.
I've seen the tour dates. It is non-stop. I mean, you got a pretty decent break between Australia and finishing up in Canada, don't you?
Yeah, I think we're off for about three and a half weeks over like Christmas and New Year's and stuff. So yeah, that'll be a good rest.
And that's your biggest break yet, is it?
I think so. Yeah, I think 3 weeks is probably the biggest break we've had this year. But yeah, we have literally like 5 weeks of tour left until we're
It's
done, which
That's
is
crazy. I was
really
just thinking about it
strange.
before. Like it's strange to think how big this tour is, and you've got that long left. Like it's gone so quick.
It has. I remember thinking when it started in February that it was like, still got like a year to go before the band's over. And now we're here. And now I'm like, oh, shit. Like
Shit.
5 weeks. Those.
Have,
What am I going to do with myself? Yeah.
oh man. Oh, have you had a chance in this year to even fathom that this is it? Like, have you had time to soak it all up as a last tour, or are you just kind of taking the tour as it comes as a tour of itself?
I think as we end each tour, it becomes more apparent. Like, as we finish Japan or as we finished in the US and even in Paris this past week, it's like, oh shit, that's it for Europe or that's it for Japan. So during the tours, I never really think about it as much, unless there's like a city or something that we've had like really amazing history with. I'll be like, oh shit, that's it for New York City or whatever like that.
Hmm.
But as it's when we're leaving the country and we're flying out or we're saying our goodbyes on the last show of that country, it becomes a little more emotional than it has obviously in the past, because in the past you're just like, well, we just finished the tour and we'll see you in a year or two. Now that's it. The band is over and we're never coming back. So yeah, it's starting to hit me a little bit more now. It's going to hit me in Australia and Canada because there's it's this is it. Like the end of January, it's over. And
Yeah.
Australia's the second last country we're so yeah.
And because you're finishing, like I'm guessing finishing up in Canada was very purposeful, being the home country. And I can only assume that closing up at Scotiabank was very, planned. That's a very, like I'm assuming you guys have played Scotiabank before, have you?
So we've never headlined Scotiabank. We opened for Billy Talent in 2013,
Yeah.
and that's the only time we've ever played it. We've never headlined it, so it's going to be like, yeah, it's going to be special in a lot of ways because it's the last show. It's the first time it's sold out already. It's the first time we've ever headlined it. We're going to have all of our family. People are flying in for it and friends, and yeah, it's going to be a crazy night. And I wouldn't be surprised if I cried.
Oh, I I don't think anyone's going to blame you if you cry, man. It's cool. You can curl up in a fetal position on the ground and cry. I don't think anyone's going to care.
Well, I'll probably do that.
So when did you say you fly down to Australia? Like when do you actually leave Canada?
This Sunday, and yeah, I arrive. I think sometime the day before the first show.
Yeah, Wednesday's the first show. That's here. I'm just down from Brisbane, so that's my local show that I'll be going to.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
We get in
it's
Tuesday.
hey, sorry,
I think we get in Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So I wake up the next day and play.
At least you get that day of like some rest. It's not a short flight, so
definitely not a short flight. I love coming to Australia. I hate the travel there. It's like,
I,
it's like it's when I arrived there, I'm like, this is one of the greatest countries on planet Earth. Like, if it's only like a 2 hour flight from Toronto, I'd come a lot more.
yeah, yeah, I can totally understand, man. I've only ever done one long trip, and that was from Australia to London, and that was brutal. I don't know how you make a life out of flying. It's killer.
Yeah, it's a crazy flight there, but we've done it and I'm used to it now, and I watch 8 movies or whatever and arrive.
Are you good at sleeping on planes?
Sometimes it depends on who you're next to, and it depends on. I always think it's like depends on when they come around to feed you and give you drinks. It's like
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
some airlines pick the wrong times where everyone's just sleeping and they're coming trying to get their cart through the aisles and they're hitting you in the elbows. And
Yeah.
so it's all circumstantial.
Who's the best person in the band to sit next to on a plane? I know that's random, but that just came to my head.
Well, I would say not Tom because me and Tom will drink too much. But no, I don't know. Maybe Zumo. Zumo can sleep. Zumo can kind of sleep wherever he is, and Dave snores a little bit. So I know. I think any of them are pretty decent. Derek, and I sat beside Derek a bunch, and he just does his iPad and passes out. So he's probably actually Derek. He's probably the best to sit beside.
Well, there we go. Not picking favorites. It's just a question.
I just named them all, so I'm just
Yeah, to be fair, just checking everyone off the list.
yeah,
Except now we know that Dave snores, so
he does snore.
look, apart from the tour, I did want to kind of throw back a couple of decades, if that's all right. Like, it's kind of long-winded, but bear with me. I want to rewind back to 2001 with All Killer No Filler. Uh, All Killer No Filler is really where the band kind of kicks off globally, even with Half Hour Power behind you. Like, Fat Lip obviously is what pushed you guys globally. Flawless album, sounds amazing start to finish, and you guys definitely kind of made your own sound with that album. But, it's a year later. I don't even know if it was a full year later, but you're in the studio recording Does This Look Infected the year after? Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think All Killer came out in May of 2001, and by November of 2002, Does Look Infected was coming out. So we were in the studio. Yeah, we were in the studio summer of 2002, spring and summer of
2002.
2002.
And that's
Yeah,
insane. Like, because to think All Killer was such a prominent and flawless album, like I will use that word, but to me, what I wanted to say was that Does This Look Infected to me is personally the most important album in your catalog because when you look at it, that album came out and what you did with that album, and especially in such a short time, like what came out on that album, you took everything you'd previously done and then added so many more layers. Like that's when you really started introducing rockier metal sounds to the album. That's when your Maiden influences and all that started to come in. Derek's vocals and his layering and harmonies just were perfected as far as I'm concerned. And there was just such an elevation to that album that it really cemented what Sum 41 became. Like the other two albums aside, as great as they are, I think that album really cemented what was the next 20 years. What are your thoughts on that? And also, did you know going into that album, writing that you were making a change in the band, or was it just you were young and what came out naturally was what became that album?
yeah. There's a lot to that question. I
Yeah.
would say that I agree. I agree with you in a way of to me, I look back at that album too and think that was like a career album, like that. Like you said, like I think it set us up for at least a couple more years. Like I felt like people took us a little bit more seriously because we never were a joke band. Like we never were a band that was like made jokey songs, but I think people, because of our videos and because of the way we acted, didn't quite take us seriously because of our antics and all that kind of stuff. So I think with that album, people were like, oh, they're actually kind of, they can play. And they can write songs, and they can,
Yeah.
do this kind of thing. And so I think that was, I think you're right in the way of like, it really made the band solidified a little bit more in people's eyes. Um, yeah. And going into it, I think because of coming off of Half Hour Power and All Killer, we basically were on the road from like 99 until Does Look Infected pretty constantly.
Mm.
And so I think we just, recording All Killer No Filler, I always say like we weren't great. Like we weren't a seasoned band at that point. We had toured Half Hour Power, but we were still, figuring it out. And
Yeah.
that was it was kind of the first real serious recording where we had like Jerry Finn as the
Mm.
producer, and we knew we had to play good. And he took us to school. Like he wouldn't let anything go. And so that was like, it was like going to school. It was like, wow, this is how you really record. And
Yeah.
I think so. Those like affected, we kind of had that knowledge and all that touring behind us, and we had gotten, even if it was a year and a half, we had gotten so much better as a band.
Mm.
From drums to bass to guitar to vocals, everything. Everyone was so much better. And I think that just showed on Does Look Infected. We could pull off more stuff. Derek was writing more songs in a minor key, not to get too
Yeah.
technical, but it was a little bit more dark and a little bit more serious sounding. So there was just a lot that went into that album, and recording it in New York City was just like, it was a vibe, right? Because you're in the
Mm.
middle of New York City. And yeah, there was a lot to that album. But I think that album, I'm like you, like I think that's one of my favorite albums we've ever done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't know what else to say about it. But pretty much what I said. It really was the perfect album, and it really set you guys up perfectly for the next 20 years. Like, I mean, there's been a couple of albums that have been a little bit different, but it really was a cementing album. Like, you can even hear it now on Heaven and Hell. You can hear those inspirations from that album. And it's great, man. Like, it's every album's that little bit different, but that album, I mean, sorry, every album's that little bit different, but there's always that Sum 41 sound to it, whether it's the bass tone, whether it's Derek or Dave or Frank, whatever, it's still Sum 41 regardless of the point, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. No,
And I don't know if that was me, if that was really quick, but has that been 15 minutes already? Was
it
was
really are.
was my does this look infected question that long that it took up half the 15 minutes?
If you got a couple more, I'm fine. I don't have to go anywhere. If you want to do 5 more minutes, that's fine.
Sweet. Well, that gives me a chance to ask you about because I was going to say that, you know, we talked about does this look infected, and I was going to say like if you look at the career of Sum 41, there's no arguing that a lot's happened. You know, you've had members leave the band, you've had label changes, you've had lineup changes. There's been ups and downs. Like nothing's a secret to the world with some. Like you guys are very open, but with all that, and especially with the music culture changing heaps across the world, you still, and I've kind of touched on this, you still managed to churn out solid albums consistently. There's, you know, regardless what anyone or you think or what I think, like they're all solid albums. And I was just going to say that Heaven and Hell is no exception. And I just wanted to know, was that album in the bag before the, you know, lack of a better term, breakup happened? Or was that the breakup happened and then you said, let's get one more album out. We need to do this for ourselves and everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I know learning about it all, like Derek had been thinking about it for a while, but yeah, recording that album, no one, at least us in the band, I don't even know if Derek really thought this is going to be the end in his own mind,
Mm,
but he had been thinking about like possibly doing other things before that, but just kind of like put it aside. It was like, we're in Sum 41, we got to keep going. But yeah, recording Heaven and Hell, I personally, I know people, the other guys in the band, did not think this was the last album. We were just recording another album because it was the pandemic.
Yeah.
There was a lot of songs. I don't know. Derek had he was just writing and writing, sending us demos. It was exciting because I'd get new demos all the time, and he'd be like, here's another one, throw some bass on it, blah blah blah, and just kind of go back and forth, just kind of online and over the phone. And it was exciting. And then there was never a thing of like, by the way, this is the last album, so let's make it really good. It was just another album in my mind. It was just like we were just recording songs during the pandemic, and it's when the album was done that he kind of talked to us about it.
Okay. Yeah. So he obviously had a lot of music to get off his chest before he closed the gates on everything.
Yeah, he was actually writing for other bands during the pandemic.
Yeah, I'd heard that.
Some of those songs on the Heaven side were meant to be for other bands, and he just decided, he's like, I like these. I'm not going to give them to someone else.
Yeah, it's fair. I can't blame you for that, especially when you listen to the album.
Gotta be hard to be like a songwriter for the band and then like also write for other bands, because you're like, I like that. Am I going to give this hit to this other band, or should I keep it for myself?
Yeah, I can't even imagine, man. That wouldn't be easy to do. Oh, man. Well, dude, I really appreciate the time that you've given me today, like in that little extra bit. I will use my last little bit, not to be emotional, but I might not ever have a chance to say this to you or anyone in the band again. But from myself and from I've got so many friends that we grew up listening to you guys. Just a big thank you for all the years of music you guys have done. As a musician, like those first few albums really, to use the word again, cemented my playing. And funny enough, like I have a very specific sound that I love on bass, and I can 100% put that back to the bridge in Nothing on My Back. That bass tone. Like it is, I don't know what it is. Like the first time I ever heard it, it was like a light went off in my head, and it was that bass tone that had perfect clarity to it. And ever since, that's one of my favorite bridges in any song. It's simple, but it's perfect. And yeah, just a big thanks to you, man, personally, and to the rest of the band. I love you guys, and thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. I could tell you what the tone is too, if you want.
Go on. I will take that. It's being recorded, so I'll take it.
That was Jerry Finn's 1962 reissue P bass, which I ended up buying one after that record that I used from All Killer on, and then it was through his Evil Twin DI, which it's very hard to find, but it's called an Evil Twin. If you can ever find one, they only made a few hundred of them in the 90s, and Jerry had one and I have one right here. Derek's got two of them, and then we used an SVT, classic SVT Ampeg with that too. But that most of that sound is the Evil Twin with that 62 reissue P bass.
Oh man, well that works out really well, because I was only talking to my bass player yesterday about written in some new tones with the guitar and his bass. So Noz, we're going to watch this video back and we're going to emulate exactly what Korn just said. That's our tone.
Very simple.
Oh man, dude, thank you so much for your time. Have a safe trip, down here. And on top of that, good luck with the rest of the tour, man. I wish you the very best.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll see you next week.
Will do, man. I'll be there. Thanks, man.